Hi, everyone. Welcome to the session for AI readiness, governance, and readiness. My name is Ferishte Rafiyan. I am the program specialist for science policy and capacity building in UNESCO Regional Office in Jakarta. UNESCO Regional Office in Jakarta is covering 5 countries of Indonesia, Malaysia, Timor-Leste, Brunei Darussalam, and the Philippines. We are also the secretariat for STEPAN, which is the Science, Technology, and Engineering Innovation Policy in Asia and Pacific. And I would like to give you a very short introduction on STEPAN. So, as I mentioned, STEPAN is a regional collaboration platform for STI policy. It has been established in 2021, and the aim is to facilitate knowledge exchange and policy dialogue and cooperation among countries in the region. Just want to make sure that my slides are on. Yes. Currently, we have 21 member countries from mainly Asia side and none from Asia, from the Pacific side. We have had in the past observers from the Pacific. The membership of STEPAN is always in expansion, so we welcome new memberships. The memberships, for your information, are done through the government, your national commissions to UNESCO. So nominations from a main entity in charge of STI policy and planning will be proposed to UNESCO, and every institution would have a focal point to represent basically the main institute in charge of STI policy, but also the country in the network. So this year, 2026, we are starting a new action plan of STEPAN for 2026 to 2030, building up on the previous action plan from 2021, 2025. The action plan follows 3 main trust areas. One is strengthening STI governance and policy with 3 focus areas on evidence-based and foresight-informed STI policy, open science implementation, and promoting responsible and ethical research and innovation. The second trust is harnessing STI for sustainable development by building skills for sustainable future, strengthening innovation ecosystem and enablers, and strengthening research and industry link. And the third area is strengthening the link between science, society, and policy. This includes science popularization, communication, and science literacy, engagement with societal actors and communities, and also science diplomacy and global local policy linkage. So we have a series of activities planned for 2026 on evidence-based and foresight-informed policy. We are doing a kind of participatory research project to map the STI governance of the STEPAN countries for the sake of, capturing the diversity of these ecosystems and also sharing good practices among the countries. For open science, we have a series of awareness raising webinars which started October last year. These are monthly webinar series to really capture what is open science, why is it relevant to our region, and what are the main stakeholders, and what are the good practices in our region, and hopefully gather the open science community better in the region and also reflect the voice of Asia Pacific at the global discussions around open science. Today, we have the first knowledge sharing session on promoting responsible and ethical research and innovation, focusing on AI, as UNESCO has recently adopted a recommendation on ethics of AI. And we have done, for many countries, we have done AI readiness assessment. So today we will be sharing the key findings and learning from this exercise. Today, we are honored to have with us Dr. Aini Suzanna Arifin, who is a fellow expert at the Center for Artificial Intelligence and Robotics at Technical University of Malaysia. Dr. Aini is also the Vice Chair of Trust 1 of STEPAN Action Plan. She has been the previous chair of STEPAN. And she's also the focal point for the AI readiness assessment in Malaysia. We have my colleague, Ms. Undral Ganbaatar, who is the program specialist for social and human sciences at UNESCO office Jakarta, and she has been leading the AI readiness assessment practices in the countries of our office. We have Dr. Mark Manantan, who is a research fellow from the Center for Global Security at La Trobe University in Philippines, and he has been the focal point for AI readiness assessment in the Philippines. We have Mr. Pisal Chanty, Director of Digital and Innovation Policy Research, Cambodia Academy of Digital Technology, also in charge of the AI readiness assessment for Cambodia. And we have Dr. Zulkarin Jahangir, who is an assistant professor at North South University, Bangladesh, also in charge of readiness assessment in Bangladesh. And last but not least, we have Mr. Fernando Ximenes, who is an independent researcher and a consultant in charge of AI readiness assessment in Timor-Leste. Very happy to have you with us today. From the side of the participants, we have a very diverse participation from government and policymaking institutions, from university and academia. We have researchers with us. We have participants from international organizations and NGOs, students, including university students, and we have participants from private sector. In the registration, we had quite some countries, but we would like to hear from you, from where you are joining us. So please scan the QR code here and tell us from where in Asia Pacific or outside you join us today. I will ask my colleague to share the slide to see your answers. And during the session, we also plan to have more interaction with you. We will have some time at the end of the session for Q&A and discussion, but also during the session, we will have a few questions on Mentimeter. The same process here, you will scan a code and you will see the questions to answer. So we will have your inputs and see how we can further address them in STEPAN activities and UNESCO activities in the future. Thank you. Excellent. We have many participants from Malaysia, Indonesia, then the Philippines, Timor-Leste, Brunei, Australia, Nepal. Very nice. New countries. We have more people from Malaysia. So the QR code is still here, and the link for the Mentimeter is shared in the chat. You can also go to menti.com and use the code on the screen. It would be great to have your answer on this first question, because if later we ask you about challenges and what can be done or the strength of your country, it would be easier for us to track back from which countries we are getting what input. Pakistan. Okay, we have wait a bit more to make sure everyone knows how to use Mentimeter. You just need to scan the code with your phone, or if you're on your computer, please use the link in the chat or go to menti.com and use the code. Very nice answers going up. We are reaching half of our participants now. The Mentimeter will be open, so please scan the code, enter your answers, and we continue. Nice to have someone from Myanmar also with us. Okay, very good. So with this, I would like to, first of all, invite Dr. Aini to please give us your opening remarks and also tell us a bit, give us an overview of what is AI policy and governance.
Thank you, Parish. Okay. Let me share my slide first, yeah? Assalamualaikum and good morning, distinguished guests, especially our UNESCO team members, my colleague, partners, researchers, and also from all across the Asia Pacific and all the participants. First of all, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to UNESCO Secretariat for organizing this important event. This event formed as part of the STEPAN Action Plan 2026 to 2030 initiative under Trust One, Strengthening STI Governance and Policy. Okay, as the Vice Chair of Trust One, I would like to extend my gratitude for the continued support from the Secretariat and to all STEPAN focal point representatives across members' countries. I hope today's session will provide valuable insight and help participants further strengthen their understanding of STI policy, particularly as we focus on increasing important area of AI policy and national AI strategy. Ladies and gentlemen, recently we noticed that AI has reshaped how government delivers services, how economies compete, and how societies are governed. The question is no longer whether AI will transform our life, the economy of our country, but will our policy shape AI, or will AI reshape our society without policy guidance? Therefore, today I will take about less than 50 minutes to share why national AI strategy are becoming important policy instrument for economic growth, responsible innovation, and society. Okay, so today I will cover 4 important areas. First of all, I will present the turning point for governance globally, and then I will cover what is AI and why it matters for public governance. Third, I will cover the importance of AI national strategies, including international benchmark from leading countries. And lastly, I will also introduce the 5 pillars for successful national AI strategy and highlight what are the takeaway for policymakers. Just now I see majority, about 30 of them are policymakers. Yeah. Okay. So as introduction, globally we are witness rapid expansion of AI, AI governance and a policy development initiative. More than 70 countries have already introduced national AI strategies, and about 900 AI-related policy initiatives have been implemented across, and about 70 about the jurisdiction. You can see here high growth of governance since 2017. And it's about 78% of the companies using AI in 2024. So this means AI is no longer experimental. Okay, so as a turning point of governance, we look at the strategic direction. This is very important because we're looking at STI policy. So as I mentioned, AI is no longer a technology, it's becoming one core infrastructure for governance and economics. First, AI drives the economic growth as enabling for the new industry, boosting the productivity and strengthening national competitiveness. For public sector's operation, it allows the governments to deliver smarter services, improve policy design, also enhance our administrative effectively. And also we look here is also a national security and technology sovereignty. Countries might ensure control over critical technologies, data governance, and cybersecurity. However, currently we can see a lot of this being controlled by developed nations because they are the AI technology developers. Yeah, so we have to do something about that. So lastly, we also can see here governance challenge. AI also introduced significant governance challenge, including algorithm bias, transparency, accountability, and also intelligent ethics concern. Therefore, government must strike. We have to strike a careful balance. We have to balance AI opportunities while responsibly managing AI risks. Yeah. So what is AI? Yeah? In very simple words, yeah, I'm not going to touch about the technical now. So what I'm talking about more on towards the governance perspective. AI refer to computer system that can perform traditionally requiring human intelligence. Yeah. So this system can learn from the data, recognize pattern, can predict outcomes, as well as support complex decision making, especially made by the government and also by the companies. Today, AI technologies also have already been applied in many areas, sector of government. We focus on government, yeah? That means they detect the financial fraud in public transaction, managing intelligent traffic system in smart cities, and also supporting medical diagnosis in healthcare, providing automated citizen service through chatbot. So this is some example that AI already is embedded in the public governance system. Okay, so why is AI is matters for governments? Yeah, so first we look at transform the economies, as I mentioned earlier, also boosting the productivity, enable new digital industry. And second, we can see here for public service, allow government to deliver more personalized and efficient service to the citizen. And then we can see also global competitiveness, helping the countries attract investment, talent, and innovation ecosystem. However, you can see AI also introduce governance risks, including, I mentioned just now, privacy concern, accountability challenge. So without a clear policy framework, I think you agree with me, AI development can become a fragmented, uncoordinated, and potential harmful to all of us. Yeah. So let me see, talking about economics, I mentioned just now, is very boosting our economics. Based on the study done by World Bank and also consultant from all over the world, from Australia as well, we can see participant from Australia today. We can see here at the global, there's market size for AI by 2030, they're talking about more than 739 billion. If talking about true generative AI, talk about 207 billion. It's very big. We're talking about Asia Pacific area. So most of us from Asia Pacific. So I focus on Asia Pacific. And it's talking about 17.3% AI market growth. So for ASEAN, because I can see we also have ASEAN members here, for ASEAN itself by 2030, we're expecting about 950 billion AI contribute to GDP. So this is how important is AI to all of us. So whether we like it or not, we have to invest on AI. Yeah. So based on that one, also another important dimension is AI readiness. Just now, after this, we're going to discuss a lot about AI readiness. Look at global readiness, because it's been evaluated by three indicators. They look at the government readiness in terms of a governance framework, digital infrastructure, talent capacity, and innovation ecosystem. So from here, we can see the global leading in 2024 is United States, followed with Singapore and South Korea. So we can see South Korea and Singapore both from Asia Pacific. That means Asia Pacific also been a leader in the global index readiness. Within ASEAN also, we can see here we are progressing because Singapore is number one. And then we are but remaining at a different stage of development for ASEAN. So this highlight the need of strong national strategies and regional collaboration to ensure Asia Pacific countries can fully participate in the global economy. Because we can see how big is the contribution, $1 billion. Okay, so we look at why national AI strategies. National strategies serve a comprehensive policy framework that we're guiding the development of AI, adoption of AI, and governance of AI. Typically, it's cover the several key areas. They look into the data and digital infrastructure, because we know AI, the enabler for AI is data set, quality data set. So we cover data and digital infrastructure, and we need the connectivity, because we need the internet as well as satellite as well, and research and innovation ecosystem, industry adoption, talent and skill development, responsible governance, and the most important thing is the public awareness. Because why public awareness? Because decision is made by the policymakers. Majority policymakers are from the government, beside the company. So because of that, public awareness is AI literacy is very important. So I understand UNESCO have introduced a lot of program on public awareness and AI literacy throughout the global and the country. So its essential national AI strategy provide coordinated roadmap to align technical development and national priority. That's where we need a national AI strategy. So we look at that is a national. How about the global? We look at we do the international benchmark. I mentioned just now, more than 70 countries have established that national innovation. So we just look at Singapore. Singapore is number 2 in terms of readiness. Singapore has launched 2023. They launched Singapore National AI Strategy, focus on smart national application and large investment in talent and digital infrastructure. Yeah, and in United Kingdom, launching in 2021 National AI Strategy, they emphasize on research leadership and responsible AI governance. And UIA in 2031, they have introduced 2030 AI. They are the first world first Ministry of AI appointed to drive the regional agenda. And Malaysia, okay, I'm coming from Malaysia, so we have introduced our national AI roadmap in 2021 to 2025, and now we introduce another one. We have the aspiration of AI 2026 to 2030. So if each of you from Asia country, if you come out with your AI strategy, you have to look which one that you want to focus on. If you want to focus on leadership, AI leadership, global leadership, and trustworthiness, you can refer to United Kingdom. If you want to focus on the national application across sector, you can refer to Singapore, or you can also refer to Malaysia as well. So this is good for you to look at the benchmark. And why country need AI strategy? So without AI strategy, we are the policymakers, right? So without the strategy, AI development often face fragmented government. So each of the ministry, they're not talking to each other. They are very silo. And we also have shortage of AI talent, limited expertise, competency in AI. So we don't have unclear regulatory environment, slow industry adoption, because industry needs some advisement, and then government is not ready. And we also talk about ethical, and ethical risk. So with this strategy, we hope the strategy can help to provide a clear direction for the nation and for the country. We can coordinate our policy, and then investors also coming in. We can prioritize our investment through the AI innovation, or through the cloud, or through the data center development. And we also can look into the responsible governance. And from when we have the strategy, and how we're going to execute the strategy to make sure it's successful when we implement it. So we have to ensure that we have the institutionalized coordination. Yeah? So we look at the real implementation. So we look at the institution coordination across the ministry.
Aini, your slides have disappeared, so we see another screen.
You cannot see?
Now we can. If you can just make it full screen.
Yeah, this is the screen then.
It's not full.
I can see.
No,
can
this page is your private chat.
Yeah, I'm talking about implementation now, execution of successful. Is it right?
Oh, I guess someone else is sharing their slide.
Yeah, it's
I'm talking about institution coordination now.
Dr. Aini's screen.
Okay, I guess someone else is also sharing a screen.
Okay.
I try to stop it. Okay.
Okay, I'm at the institutional coordination one. Okay.
Yeah, Dr. Aini, please share the screen again.
I lost the sharing session button.
If you could share again, sorry, there was a problem. There was a second screen shared.
I don't have the, I don't have, okay, I shared again. Okay, can anybody see now?
Yes. We can see, yes, sorry for that.
Okay, so now, as mentioned just now, from the AI strategy, we need to implement it effectively. Okay, so the real challenge lies on the implementation. Even though we have beautiful strategy, but sometimes we have problem on implementation. Okay, so to make sure that it's successful implementation, we require a strong institutional coordination. So, example like Australia, they have established National AI Center, same like UK. So based on their benchmark, Malaysia also have developed our National AI Office to ensure a very strong coordination across ministry. And we also have to look at public-private coordination, because we know like our country, certain developing country, we need a good partnership with a developed nation as well to share their knowledge, to share their technology with us, so that we can be competitive as well. So we need also international partnership, collaboration. Example like in Malaysia, we collaborate with Microsoft, we collaborate with Google, we collaborate in Inivia, and also with all the government agencies from all over country. And we also have to look at the human capital, developing AI talent within the government, because as we mentioned just now, government have to aware about this AI, and because they are also the decision maker. So we need the human capital, and we're talking about example like education. So Ministry of Education make sure that all the lecturers, all the teachers, and then all the researchers, they have the AI awareness and AI knowledge as well. And some same goes to the industry. So another one I mentioned just now, data is very important. So we have to ensure that we have a data governance. We need because we need a quality data, so that we can have a very quality AI system. Last not least, we're talking about regulatory readiness. So ensure that our AI is safe and is not harmful to the people, to the economics, and also to the country. So we need the regulation. So when back to the regulation around the world, governments are developing multi-layer regulatory framework for AI. These include ethical guidelines. They look at the risk impact assessment. Same goes like UNESCO. They have UNESCO also have introduced AI and impact assessment, and we have AI standard, AI regulation, and we also have specific regulation for the sector. And we have do the AI audit, and we also need the certification to ensure the AI safety and also the control of AI. So there's a regulation needed as well. So as I mentioned, standard is very critical, because most of the European country, we are not have our AI Act yet. Okay, so most of them, they are participating in the AI standard. So for AI, we have ISO IEC 42000 AI. So the objective standard to facilitate responsible AI development, also to encourage the innovation and adoption as well globally of AI technologies, as well as inform our emerging regulatory. So many standards exist. Okay, so as you know, as of today, we have more than 36 standards has been published, and then we are another 35 is coming. It's being reviewed by all the team members. So Malaysia also be part of the participant in this ISO standard. Okay, so and then we're talking about AI Act, European, AI Act is the first introduced the AI, represent the world's first comprehensive horizontal AI law. So they focus on the adopt a risk-based regulatory approach, categorized here by unacceptable risk, high risk, limited risk, or minimal risk. South Korea as well have introduced AI ethics framework and regulatory sandbox to encourage innovation and also ensuring responsible development. So this development demonstrate that AI governance is evolving rapidly globally. So we have the AI. And then what are the 5 pillars to ensure successful national AI? We need a very comprehensive, holistic development. So to all the Asia Pacific country, if you are in the stage of develop your AI strategy, you have to look at all these 5 areas. It is a need. You need these elements, to be in the AI strategy, policy, or blueprint. You have to look at the leadership and governance. Very important. That means you ensure the clear institution responsible for the AI policy and strategy. And second, make sure you have a data and digital infrastructure. Provide high quality data and also computing resources. And ensure the talent and skill development to build AI readiness workforce. So it's very important, AI readiness workforce. And we look at the innovation and ecosystem, because just now, for example, when I show that GDP for ASEAN, for example, we have 950 billion, for ASEAN country, example, regional of ASEAN. So we need to have a lot of innovation and research so that we can capture the GDP for the country. And last not least, we have to look also responsible and trustworthiness of AI. So we want to ensure ethics, transparency, and public trust. So this is the holistic ecosystem for sustainable AI development. So, as I mentioned, AI just now, responsible and trustworthiness of AI. While AI provides transformative opportunities, unregulated ethical deployment can create serious risks to society. And we can see there's a lot of unethical risks. For example, recently from the Grok, have created a lot of unethical risks as well, and certain countries have banned that application as well. So study has indicated 9 of 10 organizations have encountered ethical issue related to AI system. This one from the Smart Development 2024. Can you imagine 9 out of 10 organizations? So because of that, AI ethics therefore becoming critical. So we can see after this, our team, our members from UNESCO will explain everything about UNESCO AI ethics. So we look at the safe, fair, transparency, and we have more than element of AI principle. Yes? So we look into that one. Also, like global, we look at how the global, because we're talking about AI ethics guidelines globally. It started in 2016. Japan have introduced AI ethics principle, and then followed by 2019 OECD come out with the principle, and OECD have renewed that one. Look at the another guideline as well after we have the generative AI. Most countries have reviewed the guideline to incorporate the generative AI as well. And UNESCO have introduced a recommendation on AI ethics in 2021 and follow up with Hiroshima AI framework. And ASEAN, we have introduced it, our ASEAN AI guideline 2024. And the EU Council of EU Treaty also have the AI human rights. And 2025, EU have effective their AI Act. So all these documents you can address, you can have it online. Everybody is sharing for you, and for those countries you can refer to whenever you develop your AI strategy. So this is my last. Let I conclude my presentation for today, and then so let me emphasize on what I call it a 5 area we have to look at. First, AI strategy is not just technology, it's about economic competitiveness. So AI has the potential to transform public sector governance and service delivery. And successful AI adoption depend on responsible policy. So we must have a quality and responsible governance. So countries shaping AI policy today will influence the global economy for tomorrow. So this is my thank you. So let me ensure you all that AI is the next chapter for the global development. So policy is very important. So the decision government have made today that we have to look at the inclusive prosperity. Because to look into that. So let us, for the whole Asia Pacific, let us work together to build responsible AI ecosystem so that we can ensure AI strengthen our economies, empower our society, and affect our shared value. So because I believe, everybody believe here, the future AI is not written by machine, AI is written by policymaker. With that, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Arifin, for this very comprehensive introduction, very informative. Thanks a lot. So you mentioned that with this AI becoming a main element, a key element in economic growth, societal growth, governance, and innovation, there is a need for also global coordination and collaboration. That's why the member states of UNESCO has reached out to the organization in around, I guess, 2019 or earlier to really shape this international framework, which led to development over 2 years of consultation of the recommendation on ethics of AI, and was followed basically as a first step with the AI readiness assessment in the countries. So I would like to invite my colleague Undral to please give us an overview of what is the recommendation and what is the RAM assessment. And after that, we will hear from our country focal points about the key findings of the RAM exercise. Thanks. Undral, the floor is yours.
Thanks so much, Ferry. And good morning and good afternoon to every one of our participants and speakers joining from different countries. So let me share my screen with the PowerPoint, and if Ferry could indicate that it's on screen, that would be fantastic.
Yes.
Thank you so much. So I'm just going to speak for 10 minutes, taking the floor to tie what Dr. Aini has shared about the importance of why countries need a policy for AI. Why is there a need for a strategy? And that's, to establish a clear way to go, to understand where countries are in terms of both their talent base and human resources, but also what are their infrastructural and other hard capacities when it comes to meeting the demand for AI development and to avoid government fragmentation. So she's talked about a lot of soft and hard measures that countries have at their arsenal. And my role is to connect that wonderful presentation with what UNESCO is doing to support on this area, and to give an introduction to our AI experts who will be talking substantively about the assessment reports that have been done in multiple countries, and give an example from various ASEAN countries that we have worked with. So I think most of the participants here today know that UNESCO is a normative agency. We have a very large standard setting role, and we have been working in terms of deliberating and also implementing a global standard setting instrument on the ethical use of artificial intelligence, which was adopted, as Dr. Aini pointed out, in November 2021 at the UNESCO General Conference, which is our governing body of all of our member states. So this is a unique recommendation with 194 member states that have voluntarily adhered to these principles. And it's quite interesting to note that, member states currently range from the United States to the People's Republic of China to European Union states, African Union states, and of course, member states in Latin America and Asia and the Pacific as well. So it's a very global guideline, ethics guideline. And as Ferry also pointed out, it was driven by a very consultative process that only an institution like UNESCO can do, in that over a 2-year period from 2019 to the adoption at the General Conference in November 2021, we have probably synthesized thousands and thousands of pieces of input to determine what is a universally accepted standard setting instrument on ethical AI. So this sort of consensus building, this sort of coordination, this sort of international cooperation is really something that only an organization like UNESCO can do. In 2025, we closed the first reporting period for this recommendation. Member states, although they only adhere to this recommendation in a voluntary capacity, it's very much a soft norm. At the same time, they are also, once they have adopted it, obliged to report back to the Secretariat on its implementation at the national scale, to report back to UNESCO Secretariat and fellow member states what has been done in that country in terms of actually adhering to the soft norms themselves. So although it is not a hard law, and arguably we cannot have a international hard law on AI, we do have these soft mechanisms that we can do to push towards more ethical governance on AI. So here are the maybe there's a bit of a lag. Here are the values and principles that have been espoused in this recommendation on the ethics of AI. It's a set of interconnected values, the 4 values which are on the screen, along with the 10 principles, which are also working together to espouse a sort of universal view of what is ethical AI. And this is a very core set of foundational human rights-based principles on what is ethical. So in addition to the values and principles, what UNESCO aimed to do was to have actionable policies, to not just leave it as something that is sort of declarative, but also make it a living document that countries could refer back to again and again, and member states can use it as a sort of a clear look at what are the specific policy areas that we can make a stride towards in terms of developing AI in a responsible manner, and recognizing that values and principles are crucial, but again, as I said, there is a risk that it can just be declarative. So we also wanted to support at the secretariat level. How can we move from those high-level, declarative principles towards practical strategies for implementation within the arena of AI governance? So the recommendation sets out to do this, itself by identifying these 11 policy areas. And you can see these are areas which are pertaining to, economics, pertaining to the sciences, pertaining to communication, information, education, culture, inclusion via, inclusion of gender, and also, in the different groups of people. So these are all civilian applications of AI. So UNESCO pertains and involves itself with the governance of civilian uses of AI in an ethical manner. So just related to this last slide where I mentioned that, the goal is to make it a living recommendation with actionable steps. It has a wide range of tools to help countries to do that. We have several assessment toolkits, and one of them is the Readiness Assessment Methodology, which is a macro level assessment that governments have done to see where they are in terms of their comprehensive readiness to adopt and to use AI in an ethical manner that aligns with global standards, such as the one that UNESCO has set out. So these are the 5 chapters. The questions pertain to these 5 areas, looking at the regulatory and legal space, the social-cultural dimension, the education and research dimension, and the economic and infrastructural and technological dimension. So all of the questions within this methodology, this macro level assessment, would pertain to these 5 areas. Have other countries or have other institutions developed their own assessment methodologies? Yes. And Dr. Aini pointed to some of them in her presentation. But what makes UNESCO's assessment unique is that it is truly meant to be global, because we're a global organization with 194 member states. So the questions within this methodology, they're aimed to be as relevant for, let's say global South countries to ask as it is for European countries to ask. When we did a pre-needs assessment to develop the RAM, what we discovered was that a lot of the questions from, just as an example, the Oxford Insights benchmark, for example, they didn't really have a huge amount of significance to some of our member states in smaller countries, which is not to say it's not relevant. It's a fantastic tool, the AI governance index from Oxford Insights. But just using it as an example, we found there was a space to develop a more global or a more high-level RAM tool from UNESCO Secretariat itself, and tie it with the recommendation. And the second area of advantage that UNESCO has is not only that can we develop this as a global toolkit, but we have that mandate to work directly with governments, directly with ministers responsible for AI and SDI policy, and receive primary data from those institutions, because we are accredited to work with governments in each of our member states. And certainly, my colleagues, Ferry and other colleagues in the Jakarta region, we are working very closely with ministries in our countries, and we have that advantage through the UNESCO, mode of working as an international organization in the UN system. So all of these things that I've mentioned, we have started to compile them in an observatory. The aim of this Global AI Ethics and Governance Observatory is to be a resource for policymakers like Dr. Aini, for regulators, for academics, for those who are researchers in civil society. And we also work with the private sector as well. We have a business council on ethical AI, which is co-chaired by UNESCO and by Microsoft. And the idea is to present, the most cutting edge information, to gather contributions, to compile impactful research, toolkits like assessment tools that I have just mentioned, all of these good practices, and showcase them in an observatory which is managed by UNESCO, and once again is tied with that global standard setting instrument which I have previously mentioned. So, I'll speak a little bit about how this observatory can tie with all of the other work that UNESCO is doing across its different teams. So this is just a visual example of where we've done the assessments. It's not just limited to Asia Pacific, although of course today the purpose of the webinar is to talk about the findings in Asia Pacific, but just to give a sense of how global UNESCO can be. We've done this in Latin America, in North America, because you can see Mexico on the map. We've worked with a lot of African states, and we've worked with the supervisory authorities in the European Union as well. So, using this sort of convening power that UNESCO has, this assessment has been done in 76 countries all over the world. And in many of these cases, because as Dr. Aini mentioned, quite a lot of countries did not have a AI strategy in place. We have helped these countries to basically find, what is the state of AI now? What are our capacities in these 5 dimensions, these 5 pillars that I previously showed on the screen, and find out where we are in terms of developing an AI strategy that works for our country, our context, and is not a copy of what the European Union is doing, for example. It is very contextualized to local needs and the needs of that specific country. So that's what we've aimed to do through this assessment. So this is just a visual of all of the different member states that we have collaborated with. So some of the common themes, I'll just give a very high-level overview because we have speakers who are going to go into a deep dive into each of their country assessments and then findings. But broadly in Asia Pacific, what we've observed is that stakeholders are very interested in the application of AI in research. They're very much focused on increasing capacity for AI research within their countries in supporting scientists. Secondly, they're very concerned with getting governance right. Dr. Aini has really elaborated on why it's so important to get the policy right? In terms of it's establishing a coherent government strategy and the importance of that. So these are things that countries were very much concerned with when they agreed to work with UNESCO on conducting the AI readiness assessment methodology. And thirdly, I think is the importance of just simply generating evidence and helping countries with policy cohesion through the generation of that knowledge. So that's something that UNESCO teams are continuing to do. I mentioned that we started with the standard setting instrument, but as a sort of a testament to how important this work is, we have various teams inside UNESCO that are now looking at, the education component, the SDI component, and also looking at the practical application of AI in fields such as climate change and water management and, disaster readiness as well. And, what are the different ways that all of that interacts with countries' policies and development on AI. So UNESCO is tackling all of this in a very interdisciplinary way across different teams. And I think there will be a lot of collaboration and cross-pollination and cross-germination across UNESCO teams as well, because that's what countries are asking for. And we're responding to some of those priorities from member states. So we have, as I mentioned, this observatory where we upload the AI readiness reports, where we share best practices and cases, etc. But it's also a network of people. So we have a experts network called the AI Experts Without Borders, and these are the people who you will hear after the conclusion of my presentation. So again, I've got a bit of a world map, which shows how diverse it is. These are the countries where our experts come from. They're not just global north based individuals who come to a country and say, copy and paste, but they're representing countries that are in various stages of developing their AI strategies. They have a wide wealth of practical knowledge to share in different implementation contexts, in different geographies, political economies. So it's very, very diverse. And again, it's something that UNESCO can do through the power of our member state-driven mandate to gather all of this different levels of expertise. And this is a very, very tailored platform. It aims to work only in a demand-driven way. The projects are only implemented in countries where the government or the local stakeholder has requested support, and we aim to connect those national requests with a suitable AIEB expert who has the profile to support that particular project, whether that's on, let's say related to climate change projects or related to education projects. We would be able to facilitate this exchange of knowledge between experts from different countries through the network. And the experts provide, guidance on policies, legislation, regulatory matters, and, processes, all of which is grounded in UNESCO's ethical standards as set within the recommendation on the ethics of AI adopted in 2021. And as I mentioned, these experts are those who have led in a substantive way with the guidance of UNESCO, national AI readiness assessments. And I think they will share later in this session what are some of the concrete evidence and what are some of the concrete outputs that have emerged from that exercise. So let me conclude here with just sort of an introductory recap of what UNESCO is doing in the area of AI, grounded in the normative instrument that we have. All of the information that I've shared, it's simply from this observatory website. So all of the work that is being done across our scientific divisions, our communications, information divisions, cultural divisions, everything that UNESCO is doing, in an interdisciplinary way on AI can be found through the links at this observatory. I find it very user-friendly. And if you go into that little tab called countries, there you would be able to download the full country reports, some of which we're going to hear about later today. So all of that is online, and I encourage you to take a look. And if it's easier, you can, of course, scan the QR code that I have on the screen right now. But I will conclude it there, and thank you so much, and looking forward to the rest of the session. Back to you, Ferry.
Thank you so much, Undral. Very informative, very interesting. For sure, today we cannot include all of the reports and the assessments, but it's good to know that there is a global observatory that everyone can refer to. So before we go to our country cases, I would like to start with a question for our participants to tell us, in their view, now that we know more about AI policies, I would like to hear from our participants what they think are the main barriers to translate AI policies into effective practices. We have another Mentimeter slide with a QR code. So please share your thoughts with us before we go to hear from our country cases. You can just type in the answer after scanning the QR code. So from policy to effective practices, what are the main barriers you see in your sector or in your country? And the link is also in the chat. Okay. Lack of tools, hardwares, and softwares, and lack of data sharing, the culture, the people. I suppose it's referring to the human capacity and skills. More ideas? Base knowledge, technical only versus policy only. So I understand that sometimes it's very technical and it's not addressed on the policy side and vice versa. AI experts, no multi-agent AI and no XAI. A lack of data quality. That's especially when it comes to the local context, that's very important because we don't want the AI algorithms to reproduce a solution for context based on another context. This is very important to have local data and local research to really capture what's the reality of each context. Main barrier here is the way of thinking. That's interesting. Lack of human capacity and experts, technical skills and infrastructures, gaps between policy sets in the capital and rural capacity and priorities. Yes, that's very important. Skill gap, limited infrastructure, no high performance computer, which is coming up at least for the ASEAN countries. Quantum computing, complex or fragmented efforts. Exactly, this is what Dr. Arifin was also addressing, that policies are needed to connect these fragmented efforts. Limited AI literacy and understanding of AI, absolutely true, and that's why UNESCO is putting a lot of efforts in that. Adoption in various adopters and translation to local contexts. There is no AI in the daily life. Teaching and learning is without AI. Subject matter experts are missing. Governance, implementation, and awareness. Lots of challenges and barriers. Hopefully we can hear more from our country focal points, how they have overcome some of these challenges, or what is the vision and plans for that. Please feel free to answer and have more inputs in this slide. But we continue by inviting Dr. Mark Manantan from the Philippines to please tell us more about the AI governance framework in the Philippines and how it aligns with the Philippines Innovation Act, which is actually aiming to put innovation beside science and technology as drivers of the national development in your countries. And please also tell us about the key findings of the AI RAM in your country and what national or regional follow-up actions are being considered based on the results of this RAM. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you so much for the question. And once again, I extend my heartfelt appreciation to UNESCO and to STEPAN for the wonderful invitation to partake in this very insightful and timely discussion. I think I'll start my remarks by providing a little bit of a context to where the Philippines has been approaching its science, technology, and innovation policy. And after that, I'll be situating where artificial intelligence sits within this broader conversation, with a particular focus on what you've mentioned on the Philippine Innovation Act and other legislations before segueing into a discussion on the national AI strategy. And I'll end the presentation by sort of providing some high-level key findings that were the outcomes were derived from our convening during the UNESCO Readiness Assessment Methodology implementation in the Philippines. I think I'll do that in 5 minutes for us to have a wonderful exchange among the other experts. So I think the Philippines has really started to think about its science, technology, and innovation after its independence, and particularly I would divide the period into three eras. The first one is the emerging period, the consolidation period, and finally the expansion period. So post World War II, it's really the Constitution in 1958 that allowed the Science Act of 1958 that kickstarted the growth of science and technology in the Philippines. And being a former US colony, the Philippines has really benefited a lot from those early exchanges with the United States, particularly with scientists, as well as the presence of growing industry across the country. By the 1960s to 1970s to 80s, the Philippines has undergone a dictatorship, and by the 1987, a new constitution was legislated and launched, and this was really saw the establishment of the Department of Science and Technology as the lead institution in advancing science, technology, and innovation policy in the country in 1987. So from the 1990s to 2010, this is the expansion period where the Philippines has started to really look into sector-specific legislation in science, technology, and innovation, agriculture, healthcare, and also the ICT sector. We also saw the establishment of research and development, collaborative research and partnerships with the industry through business innovation initiatives, as well as international partnerships in various bilateral and unilateral linkages. And so, coming into the age of artificial intelligence, I think we see an increasing interest in the Philippines being part of Southeast Asia and ASEAN, as well as in the greater East Asia. I think AI is very much a key driver of economic growth and development, as mentioned by Professor Aini in her presentation. And in the AI governance landscape, I think the intersection of science, technology, and innovation policy really culminated, or at least culminated in the establishment of the National AI Strategy. Of course, the Department of Science and Technology has been implementing the NAIS-PH, which is the AI blueprint that sets out the objectives and goals of the Philippines in seizing the opportunities and also mitigating the challenges of artificial intelligence. And as Ferry has mentioned, the Philippine government has enacted in 2019 the Philippine Innovation Act, or Republic Act 11293, which declares innovation as a vital component of national development and sustainable growth. And to drive the implementation of the Philippine Innovation Act, the National Innovation Council was created to lead the whole of government coordination of the country's innovation governance and formulate the National Innovation Agenda and Strategy document, which contains the Philippines' vision and goals for its innovation ecosystem. Following through with the Philippine Innovation Act, we also saw the enactment of the Philippine Innovative Startup Act, or the RA 11337, in the same year in 2019 to establish the Philippine Startup Development Program to provide benefits and incentives for startups and startup enablers. And I think just very recently, based on or after the release of the National AI Strategy PH, the National Center for AI Research, led by the private sector, has been established, and it will serve as a shared research hub for AI, supporting digital transformation of Filipino businesses and industries, and also the implementation of internet connectivity and research and development. And as mentioned by Ferry in the final segment of the question, some of the key findings from the RAM that we have shared during the launch of the readiness assessment methodology in Manila in November. There are three important, I'd say just like three key highlights of the RAM that I think have implications to the science, technology, and innovation policy in the Philippines. I think the first one really is the need towards greater investments in the foundational elements of artificial intelligence to achieve genuine science, technology, and innovation policy. And this pertains to, of course, the Philippines still lacks in terms of reliable and affordable internet connectivity that undermines all the digital transformation projects that are being launched by the government. Although the Marcos administration and the previous Duterte administration has vowed to increase 5G penetration, unfortunately, the Philippines still lags among the ASEAN six, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam, and Singapore, in terms of the speed and internet connectivity. And that, of course, impacts the country's ability to reskill and upskill, given that the Philippines is also such an archipelagic country, which further provides, or at least creates challenges for creating inclusive education from primary, secondary, all the way to tertiary. The second, I'd say, factor or finding from the readiness assessment methodology when it comes to science, technology, and innovation is really the lack of research and development allocation from the government. I think the limited fiscal resources under the General Appropriations Act in the Philippines highlights the government's lack of investment in terms of really turbocharging or increasing the R&D capacity of the government. And in the RAM, we saw the disparity that, of course, while the private sector is leading research and development, a lot of the stakeholders that we've engaged in would really appreciate creating an enabling environment for universities in the country, the research that are being done within the universities to be commercialized and converted into something that the industry can utilize and develop various applications, particularly in high tech sectors such as manufacturing and semiconductor. And I think the last key finding that I directly relates to science and technology and innovation pertains to, of course, the growing AI readiness, or the growing disparity in terms of AI readiness across the Philippines. The RAM, as Undral mentioned, doesn't only highlight or provide a very macro level assessment of a country's AI readiness, but also it really looks into the root cause of such problems that would eventually have greater implications. And for a country like the Philippines, I think the advent of generative AI and also agentic AI poses great threat to the business process outsourcing, one of the country's key pillars, economic pillars. And the challenge is how to prepare a workforce that is capable and able to undertake or face the challenges of automation in this age of agentic AI and generative AI. So in terms of science, technology, and innovation, I think this calls for greater partnership and collaboration between government, academia, and industry, and how the National AI Strategy Philippines could serve as the anchor in forging such stronger partnership. But the question really is, to what degree will the current government and the succeeding government of the Philippines will sustain AI investments across sectors, particularly in research and development? So I think I'll just close there. Hopefully that provides you food for thought and some insights, and happy to answer questions later on. Thank you so much, Ferry and Dral, and to the UNESCO team.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks for walking us through the history of AI governance in 5 minutes. And it's very interesting to see actually the challenges of AI is very much the same as the challenges of research and science. So basic investment in infrastructure and, the research itself, human resource for that. Very informative for the STI policymakers. Thank you so much. So with this, I would like to invite Mr. Pisal from Cambodia to also share with us what are the key findings of Cambodia AI RAM assessment, and what priority actions have been identified through this, and also what challenges, and do you see some opportunities for regional collaboration to address those challenges? Thanks. The floor is yours.
Thank you, and good morning and good afternoon to everyone across the globe, I think. First of all, I would like to thank UNESCO and also the team for organizing this important sharing session, and also sharing the opportunity to share not only the RAM as a tool, but also a RAM as a finding from different countries. So I share the screen from my side. So hopefully you see my screen now.
Yes.
So I will try to be short, probably try to be as short as Mark can do to describe a whole journeys of AI development in Philippines. But from here is that Cambodia also sharing similar aspect to other different countries. However, we have been run through a genocide in the 1970s for 3 years that kill intellectuals, the Homo genocide that we kill our own people. And after that, we have a series of ongoing civil war across the country until the 1998 that we have a one consolidated government representing the whole country and have a proper peace. I try to put everything into a digital transformation in Cambodia that we start from 1990s. Why we say it started from 1990s because we have a first election supported by the United Nations in 1993. So we start having establish a institution from the human, because we have a lack of human capital. So we have been those of the talent and intellectual have been killed during the war, but also during the genocides, because they are targeting the intellectual. So these are the ongoing development. We build the institutions, we start introduce technology, we have a different plan across the country. We start to have a ministry in charge of telecom and ICT, and then with the commitment with the World Bank, we introduce a independent telecom regulator. We have a free market telecom sector in Cambodia. We have a private sector that play a role into that, but also a government trying to regulate it with the independent regulator as in commitment with WTO. Then we start to introduce the first telecom law, not first telecom law only until 2015. It's have been taking more than 10 years just to adopt one law on frequency management, on telecommunication, on bridging the digital device, on so far. So back to the RAM. Why RAM have been conducted? I think starting the RAM in Cambodia is interesting. Cambodia really need RAM. The readiness assessment, I'm not going to detail what is RAM about, because Undral have been mentioned already why it's important, what are the components into that. But the interesting part of RAM is that it's the commitment from Cambodia government, the Ministry of Post and Telecommunication at that time, want to see what is the baseline. Because we want to develop to impress the benefit of AI, but we don't know the baseline. So at that time, we are aware from the Global Forum on the Ethics of AI in 2024. At that time, we start engaging with UNESCO on what is the way we need to go forward from them. Starting from them, we joined the Global AI Summit, and then initially launched the RAM in November. But during the launch, one interesting and then I think one lesson learned that we should take into consideration from Cambodian experience is that we do a pre-RAM assessment. We do not wait until the RAM officially launch, but we do the pre-RAM assessment on the question that have been asked, 176 questions on the 5 dimension. We started first. So at that time, we have the UNESCO expert without border to come in to conduct the assessment with the knowledge and the tool available. So it allows us to fast track, but also to give a better image on how we do things together. But also we launched that in 2025 at the same time that we start consultation of the draft national AI strategy. That is very important as we link the connection from the national from the RAM assessment to the national AI strategy. So these are the figures on the RAM assessment in Cambodia. We have different ministry, different consultations so far into that process. This is a process in the launching that we have been conducting. You can find this, I'm not going to detail, but you can find the summary and the full report from this issue, or maybe you can spend the time, or maybe we can share this later on to you as well. Now, as the STI component, what are the STI components that we are finding in the RAM assessment in Cambodia? We found that the R&D expenditure in Cambodia remained low, 0.9% of the total GDP, which is the minimum threshold recommended by the UNESCO is 1.5% of the GDP. It's a significant limited expenditure on that. For the past decade, only 406 publications on the AI and ethics of AI that have been done so far from Cambodian author, from Cambodian researcher. But we see around 313 is from a different extract way that we can try to conduct. Moreover, there is no dedicated research institution to AI or AI ethics. Only CADT, we start the National Institute where I belong, the National Institute of Post, Telecom and ICT, to conduct the first natural language processing in Khmer language, that we believe that we need to have this own autonomy into the aspects. In terms of the education wide, we do not have any specific AI policy for in education in Cambodia. Despite the commitment from the ministry to integrate digital skill into the country. It's important to note that only 30% of our citizens have basic digital skill, not to mention of AI literacy. So we see a limitation in our education, but also in the literacy and awareness general wide. In terms of this area as well, we have introduced a digital skill development roadmap 2024-2035 to build a 100,000 AI ready talent. We not say that it a AI talent, but it's just an AI ready talent that be ready to integrate it to advance to the expert area. We have developed a digital skill competency framework that identify there is a co-creation between the private sector, public sector, government institution, and from academia. What are the needs for Cambodia in the next 10 years? What are the skills needed? One of which is data and AI. That is a need for the country. However, we do not have enough course in master degree, professional certification that offer about higher education in those skills. Yeah. This is a significant gaps. In 2024, only 3 universities that have a course related to AI in bachelor degree and master degree, and only around 200 or 300 students studying at that time. So it's a significant gaps that we see as well. This is one of the examples that we want to establish because we, as I mentioned earlier, we are absent of data and AI institution. I think earlier speaker also mentioned on the lack of infrastructure, but also the computing infrastructure. It's hard for us to acquire the computing infrastructure that respond to the need. That's why we conduct a feasibility study, what are the needed. And now we are working, that is also a good example into the latter part of the discussion is that what are the potential collaboration that we need to do. So this is a collaboration with the ASEAN, the French development funds that we are trying to establish the AI and data science labs that will be a cluster computing power with the support of research team so that everyone can access the government education research corporate institution that can also access to this area as well. I think another aspects that have been mentioned across ASEAN, I think most of us have been experienced in the institutional arrangement. Before the assessment, there is a lot of discussion. Which are the ministry responsible for AI governance, what are responsible for research and development. Until then, the Prime Minister of Kingdom Cambodia decided, okay, ministry in charge of ICT, Ministry of Post and Telecommunication, responsible for infrastructure and governance. While AI research and development is the Ministry of Industry, Science, Technology, Innovation, STI, that in charge of developing the AI research and development roadmap, but also promoting the AI and development across the country. While Ministry of Education is responsible for AI-related education. And most important part and the most important aspect that we need to take note is that each ministry have their own responsibility in promoting the adoption in their own ministry. That is the most important part, meaning that it's not on the 3 ministries ahead on AI, on governance, on education, more on the horizontal, but the vertical aspect is on the sectoral body. So what is the key finding from that? One thing is that we lack of infrastructure. Second part, we lack of data availability in Khmer language. We have 17 million people. We have our own language, is Khmer language, and it's not on the online present. There is a limited Khmer language on the online present. So the first part, infrastructure, we are lacking. Significant improvement on connectivity have been done, but the data in Khmer is limited. Computing power is still in a struggling. Not many of organizations have the computing power. AI ready talent is not there. Mechanism for promoting governance and institutional arrangement is still lacking. So what is the following up from the RAM? So as I told you earlier, RAM have been started as a baseline for introducing the national AI strategy. So it contributes directly to the national AI strategy. So in the national AI strategy draft, now we are going to the interministerial already. So they identify 6 priority areas. The first one is a human that I have been mentioned earlier. Human here is not only the talent, but also the literacy among the citizens. The second part is on data, computing, and key technology. The third priority is on adoption, on the digital adoption in the government. We start from the government and then following up by the adoption in the priority area on the left part of the presentation, you see are the key priority area that you have been identified by the government. The fifth part is on ethical and responsible AI that we align with also the ASEAN guide on the ethical of AI and the generative AI into ASEAN, but also the other different commitment with the UNESCO, with the Hiroshima process, and also GPI that we are committed to be a part in the GPI. And the last part is on the collaboration on research and development and innovation. I'm not going to detail on the AI application in priority sector. Another important aspect from the RAM that we identified that we don't have a research institution in AI education. So we, with the UNESCO, also with the support from UNESCO, and also the Ministry of Education and Ministry of Post and Telecommunication, we launched the first AI for Education Research Center in Cambodia that focusing on AI and research, that what are the policy, are the ethical component that should be considered in the AI adoption in Cambodia, but also innovative pedagogy, the edutech, but also the research and development into using the AI into teaching and learning as well. So back into key challenge: low digital literacy, insufficient technology infrastructure, data availability in Khmer language, AI adoption is very limited, no law and regulation, but also absence of a national AI strategy. So that is the summary of what we have been doing so far. But before I conclude my presentation is that we need an important use case that the country need to promote. So we need to tackling the horizontal aspects of the human capital, of the infrastructure, of data availability, but in adoption level, we need a use case so that different sectors start to introduce that into that area. And in the use case, I think it's a good important aspect we need to take note is that there is a collaboration between the private sector, industry and development partner. We cannot do it alone. Sometimes different countries have a different use case. So that is important that you need to transfer those use cases into different countries across the region so that they can promote, because different countries have a different level of adoption in different sectors. So that is I think that is a collaboration across the region is doing this. I think Cambodia and Philippines have been a good example in technology transfer in different use cases as well. That is, I think that's a good example that we need to promote. So thank you. Maybe we can follow up in the later on the discussion. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thanks for highlighting the importance of collaboration between the countries, between the sectors, and also between different ministries even. This is exactly the main purpose of STEPAN and such sessions, to really share experience between the countries, connect the experts, connect countries and decision makers together. Thank you so much. So with this, I would like to invite Mr. Fernando Ximenes from Timor-Leste to please also share with us the key findings of Timor-Leste's AI RAM and how can these be reflected in the first national policy of Timor-Leste on STI, which is currently under development. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. So first of all, thank you so much for having us, for inviting us after a long periods of program in Timor-Leste. I'm very happy to be part of this network and sharing session about PRAM in Timor-Leste. Key findings of this report. I think as many of us have read it, and I think the
Sorry, Mr. Fernando,
report,
sorry for interrupting you. We hear a lot of background noise.
It's a.
Do you think you can use a headphone?
It's a result from the huge collaborations between UNESCO and also partners in Timor-Leste. Hello? Hello?
Yes, I'm suggesting if you can use
Hello?
a headphone or a microphone.
Hello?
Yes, hello. I think the noise is gone, so please
Hello?
continue.
Yes.
It's
Can
better
anyone
now.
hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. I think Okay, just go directly to the report, and it's a long process, and also involve partners and between UNESCO, Catalpa, and ourselves in this during the diagnosis and also the consultation process and so on. The report, as you can see, it have around 24 key recommendations, with 16 designated as a high priority, and the rest is medium. And as you know that um, uh, this also came in a very crucial time in Timor-Leste, in which where Timor-Leste start to integrate into the ASEAN region, and also just recently in 2024 accepted to the WTO, which is reinforce the internal liberalizations of the market in Timor-Leste. Um, and I think it's the RAM also came in a very crucial time where Timor-Leste start engaging in administrative and legal reform within the country, and also put quite uh, critical concern on digital transformation of the government service and other aspects as well, and uh, investment on critical foundation of the infrastructure. But as you can see that in the as the I'll try to share
Sure.
my screen. Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Uh, let's see.
Yes, it's coming.
So yes, we have 5 key pillars in the assessment, as you know. That on the legal aspect, as there has been a huge transformation and reform on legal and administrative level, but so far there is absence of in existing basic fundamental of internet governance. Not just simply the AI, but even we have absence of data protections law. We don't have a cyber security bill. All of those critical laws still in the drafting level stage, and none of any existing law in Timor-Leste mentioned the name of AI. And even the digital strategy too doesn't address or doesn't specifically mention the AI in the report or in the strategy and so on. Means that Timor-Leste doesn't have any uh, AI strategy in place right now. There's a lot of challenges right now. We're facing like bureaucratic process who take a lot of times and that can enabling the environment for the legal adoptions of regulatory development in the country to adopt in changing and transformative situations in the government in societal level, and that's in the legal terms, legal situation that we are identifying in the report. On cultural social level, I think the report found that the use of AI among students and public in general are growing, are increasing, and also it create a lot of risks and concern as well, because many fake news, fake videos, and disinformation are being created by the AI, and it's circulated, very amplified in a social media, in an internet, in a digital space of using AI to generate fake news and so on. Questions like we found that for instance, like during the assessment and so on, we test the use of the Timorese language, like Tetum. We have a different result of translation between the different chatbots, like ChatGPT or DeepSeek or so on and so on. They have a different result of the grammatic of the Tetum grammar and so on. I think this is continue to pose a serious questions on linguistic polarization or low resource language like the Tetum. Tetum is the national language of Timor-Leste. And but on the other, the government pushing toward many digital transformation, like moving some provisional service into the digital platform, but people still realize on manual way of doing the service and so on. I think this is one thing that very this is an issue that affects the ongoing adoptions of the technology and then also the AI in public service in Timor society in general. In educational level, I think we found a huge core tensions in here as well. Like we can see that during the 20 years since the restoration of independence, we have one university only, Tiger University, but adopt STM and STI department studying in, like engineering and architects and so on. But there is still ongoing talent gaps. Like if we identify that many of IT sectors in the government are for the IT desktop only, and they have a very limited IT engineering, data specialization, and so on, that are very crucial for AI development. In general, the AI talent in Timor-Leste is quite limited, and so on. I think this is reflecting the country economic situation and positions as a dependent country that's suffering the maldevelopment process we have a very limited AI integration in education and research. We have a very limited publication on AI, and with the limitation of the internet infrastructure, like internet device, I think this is one biggest challenge for AI adoptions in the at the school. At the university, there's but it's very quite there's a very big challenge for the AI adoptions in the secondary development. And, of course, we also noted that the RAM assessment identified the insufficient R&D funding, and there's no specific. It almost seemed like in Cambodia we have a very limited budget and funding on R&D, and there's no specific R&D rubrics in the state budget planning and execution. So let's go to the economy. Of course, the economy in Timor-Leste is very informal. It's a very precarious economy, and I think it's very difficult for AI adoptions among economic business sectors in here. We noted that there is an increasing fintech tech company, local homegrown tech company in Timor-Leste. But there's the AI adoption is very challenging. For instance, we identified the case of a development of a homegrown riding apps that find it difficult to operate because we have a very limited Google Maps and so their operation, and they finally they stop their business on this apps riding and so on in riding apps in Timor-Leste, like delivery and motorbike taxi to deliver the customer and so on, because of lacking of internet, lacking of comprehensive and real-time map and so on. Yes. Okay. I think this is very crucial once again because Timor-Leste is a very is a dependent economy. It's dependent on oil. It's also dependent on import, basic and also hardware, software, and many things. And there's a like as you can see in here, the connectivity, despite of connectivity being expanded, but the government invest in the submarine cable and establish a state-owned enterprise on submarine cable. Still unaffordable and also inaccessible for many, and it's quite expensive and also very slow. One of the slowest. There is a data plan centers that are in the plan underway. It aims to establish a centralized modern data in the future in Timor-Leste. Infrastructure gaps and limitations, as you can see that there's none of a GPU data center that hosted in a small scale. And most of the infrastructure in Timor-Leste are became aging, like tower BTS and fiber cable and so on. And it reinforced the internet costs and most of the telco give it make the citizens are taking much the costs in terms of using the internet and so on. And most of the cloud services in here are being outsourced to foreign company and not put in place. I think this is a very crucial issues about the data because a homegrown AI need data that are being properly used and managed and in a control level. And very limited local innovations because most of the IT professionals are preferring to work in the government, prefer to work in an international agency instead of build local innovative company or groups or whatever to develop the innovation in software and hardware and so on. I think that finally the data ecosystem challenge. As you can see, the official government is very difficult to access all the data and poor interoperability of the data between the government. There is a poor data in sharing between institutions and still a manual management and consistency of the data and all data still hold and managed in manual way. And as you can see in the final one, this is one of the big concerns that AI also to need to help the local culture, the local knowledge, and it's like the colonizing the knowledge and so on. It's important that we noted that there's a lack of Timor-centric knowledge production and scientific data. I think any AI development in Timor-Leste require to study also the national and local knowledge and local scientific productions, and not just simply the advanced data sets of the Western dominated data sets to highlight also in here. So this is the conclusion for the key finding for the Timor-Leste RAM. Timor-Leste is still in the national AI integration. It's in the early digital transformation stage. Currently, we consider as a downstream AI user with additional policy discourse. Thanks for the AI RAM. Right now, the government are preparing to review the digital strategy to include the provisions and discussion on AI, artificial intelligence in Timor-Leste digital strategy. And thanks also because right now Timor-Leste is conducting also the digital financial assessment, but on the other side also working with other partners, working to conduct an assessment on Timor-Leste readiness and awareness over the ASEAN DIFA, which is still under the negotiation right now in the ASEAN level. So in the policy and legislative progress, as I mentioned, but Timor-Leste investment in ICT infrastructure, including submarine cable and planet data center. This is a crucial investment for the future AI development development of a homegrown or local AI that serve the local or specific local and peoples and market needs in Timor-Leste. I think it's a bit longer. I hope you can take something from this. I'm very sorry for my automatically for the
No,
telco
thank
to
you
be
so
more
much.
accountable so that we can. Yeah, I think that's all from me. I'll hand over to you, Rafi, and thank you.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so much
much.
for
So
attention.
informative and big congratulations to you and to Timor-Leste for conducting this RAM assessment. I actually think this is the very right time to do this assessment before any strategy specific on AI has been developed, because we know how much effort of coordination and consultation can be put in developing a policy or national strategy. And it's very important to do such assessments before that, because when a policy is adopted, it's very difficult to change it. Thank you so much. I hope that this input can be also taken in the development of the overall STI policy of the country. And thanks also our participants, especially Licha, for sharing your inputs in the chat. I also shared the link for the Global Observatory in the chat box. And with this, I would like to invite our last speaker, Dr. Jahangir from Bangladesh, to also share the main findings of Bangladesh AI RAM assessment. And please tell us, in light of RAM emphasis on inclusive and high quality local data sets, what STI governance measures are needed to strengthen an inclusive local research ecosystem, and what progress has been made so far. This was also something that was mentioned in the last two talks about, the local languages, local research system. So we would like to hear from you about that. The floor is yours.
Great. Sorry, can you hear me well?
Very well.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So I think, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me over here. And I think it's a great opportunity to meet some of the other, RAM researchers who worked in their countries. And some of those problems that we discussed and some of the challenges are very similar. But if I may begin with, some aspects that what we have experienced in Bangladesh. Now, first of all, Bangladesh actually started off with a very strong digital government foundations. The previous government, ever since we started RAM, there was a change of government 3 times. So the previous government we started off with, and there was an interim government, and there is a new government just came in. So when we started, it was the government was actually focusing on the foundation of digital service provisions. So we have a nationwide digital service delivery infrastructure that was already in place to begin with. So that we also mentioned in our RAM report. But of course, we lack a comprehensive AI strategy. Now, if I may just quickly go over this, previous government actually focused on the legal perspective. They started off with, but they couldn't quite finish, and then came the interim government, and they started off with the AI policy, and then it was there, but it just on paper. Now, typically, that's one of the biggest problem for a country like Bangladesh, that we have lots of policies, but implementation of it is a different thing. Now, AI of course, is something new, and then it was also very difficult to have a, AI policy, as I said, for the changes of last 3 years. So hopefully, we this is one thing that Bangladesh need to do right now, because the AI strategy has to be formalized. And there was, of course, the other problem is there is no central AI governance, any such thing exists. So that can be another thing that Bangladesh need to look into. We have a very limited AI research capacity. Now, there are few universities who got researchers in AI, but not labs, low publication output, and also there is a limited funding in AI research. So that's one of the other problem Bangladesh is currently what we have seen when we were, doing our readiness assessments. There is a talent shortage in AI as well in Bangladesh. There is a lack of specialized AI education, which I just mentioned at the university level. So that also means there is a very limited interdisciplinary AI training that exists in the country. And very typically, the country like Bangladesh also face this problem with brain drain because there's a lot of talented people, they live abroad. And that's why we actually recommended that we need to have a AI education program. Started off ideally from primary education and so on. So that there has to be integration with the education system, which we don't have. And we need to also introduce the AI training that is relevant for the current demand of the country. And national AI skill development program needs to be in place for the country. Like some of the challenges my other colleague mentioned here today, Bangladesh got a similar problem with the data governance challenge. There is a fragmented public data in Bangladesh. So we got lots of data, but it's very fragmented. It doesn't communicate with each other. So which means that there is a very weak data sharing policies that we have. And that is of course other problem is limited open data infrastructure in the country. So that's one of the biggest challenges that we have seen for AI to develop in Bangladesh. Now, if properly governed, Bangladesh can actually have a public sector AI system using government data. But we do have lots of data. As I said, there was a good infrastructure, but because of these challenges we have in terms of how do we share the data, interoperability, so that's challenges that still exist. And one of the biggest problem is our infrastructure inequality. We have a uneven broadband inequality in Bangladesh that's been there for quite a long time. The digital service infrastructure was developed, but not the foundation of it, which is the inequality that we have when it comes to infrastructure. We have a rural connectivity gap that was also quite acute, and we have a limited high performance, computing resources. Now, this is something I think that was maybe there is a possibilities to think about the coordination or collaborations that Bangladesh can actually seek from other countries and see how we can actually develop in this particular space. Now, when it comes to ethical and regulatory gaps, as I said, we don't have any AI, strategy. That also means that AI specific regulations are also very weak in Bangladesh. There has to be algorithmic accountability mechanism, which we don't have. There is AI risk assessments we don't have. So developing an AI governance and ethical guidelines is absolutely essential. Of course, RAM only highlights some of the challenges of the country, but that needs to be, introduced soon. And algorithmic auditing that we talked about, this very recently we were in discussion, but in Bangladesh, we need to also consider that how we can have any such thing, because we will be depending on many international other agencies coming up with AI tools and so on. So if we think about the AI, ethical perspective, the modules and so on, is that there must be some way we can see that how that can be incorporated. Is there any way we can understand there is an AI audit that we can consider? Now there is economic potential for sure, because there were some major areas in Bangladesh like agriculture, health, public administration, financial service, or logistics. But because of the inclusion and digital divide that we have in Bangladesh, so that is a key concern, because whatever services, anything that you introduce in the country, that's still going to be unequally distributed. So there are major, strategic opportunities that we see in future. One is in how we can, deploy in agriculture, in healthcare, in social protections, in public sector. So, but overall, if you look at Bangladesh perspective, we have a digital governance, which was really strong, but we have an AI research, which is very weak. We have a limited AI talent. We have a moderate infrastructure, but our governance is one of the challenges that we haven't quite covered. So I'm going to leave it at that right now. And if we have any further questions on Bangladesh or any other related to my domain, I'd love to answer. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we have only a few minutes left. I wanted to also ask Dr. Aini to share some lesson learned with us, but before that, I would like to ask if there is any burning question from anyone for the 4 speakers we had. If not, please ask in the chat or raise your hands. If there is any question for the speakers. Okay. As I don't see any question coming through, I would like to ask Dr. Aini, please, maybe in 2 minutes, if you can share with us what you have learned from Malaysia's RAM assessment.
Okay, 2 minutes, yeah? Okay. I'll go back to the AI strategy and also why the RAM related, because RAM talking about AI readiness. Yeah, so what I learned is more towards our really concern. If the country have the national AI roadmap, then easier for them to really look at the assessment for readiness. Yeah, so if your country don't have the AI strategy, it's quite difficult for you to embark on AI readiness. So that's one lesson learned. You must have your AI strategy. Yeah, so that is talking about the RAM. So good thing about the RAM is the stakeholders engagement. Yeah, because UNESCO have introduced one of the element beside the dimension. They have 5 dimensions as mentioned by Undral, but the stakeholders engagement is very important. Because we involve when come to the assessment implementation, because we have a very good policy, AI policy, but implementation is very poor. That's why we need a total engagement from the industry. Because when we're talking about engagement, we're looking into the industry, government, we look into the academia, we also look into the society as well. Then our AI policy will be very successful implemented. Yeah, so that is what very crucial. And we look at this during the stakeholders, what are the expectations in terms of what they want the country and the government to help them in terms of AI technology development for the innovation, as well as AI adoption. For example, like all of us, we are the user. So what is our obligation as a user towards adoption of AI? So that one is very important. So back to very brief, back to Malaysia, what I want to share with you, because Malaysia, we have the national policy since 2021. And then we have a very strong lesson learned. I got 5 lessons learned, very brief, and then everybody can work closely with us. First, we're talking about the strong institution. So for Malaysia, we have a very strong institution coordination to do the monitoring and evaluation. So we have the national AI policy. So I can say that one, based on the 5 trust area that I mentioned in my AI strategy, we have achieved 80% of the target. For example, what are the target that we have achieved? So during the 5 years, we established institution. We have established the Ministry of Digital of AI, and the Ministry of Digital, and we have the National AI Office looking at coordination. At the same time, we also have a very good infrastructure whereby 98% of our people can access to the internet. Yeah, because AI is talking about connectivity. So if we don't have the internet, we don't have the satellite system, so it's quite difficult for the people to access to AI, because to use the AI. So that's very important for us. And also in terms of R&D, Malaysia have established our Center of AI and Robotics since 1996. So I think in ASEAN, we have more than 30 years Center of AI and Robotics, and we have more than 300 expert, the professor also looking into the AI. When it comes to capacity building, this is what I want you all to learn as well. Try to work closely with the international and also with developers of AI like Microsoft, like you're talking about Huawei or Google. So for Malaysia, we're talking about education. AI education is very important. We have to educate the educators. So what we did, we worked closely with Microsoft, with Google. So they have trained our lecturers in various fields, either in history or whether in geography or in the legal. So the lecturers, so now they have the knowledge on AI. Last not least, we also have established the responsible AI. So the government have introduced AI guidelines for the user, AI guideline for the policymakers, and also guideline for the policy developers. So my conclusion is, if we really want to invest in AI, we must have the strong institution, we must have a robust data governance, we must have a good infrastructure, continuous talent capacity building, and then we have to look at integration of the responsible AI. And last not least, data sharing is very important. Because of that, Malaysia has come out with the omnibus within the government and the state level to look at data sharing. Because data sharing is very crucial. If we cannot get a quality data set, it's quite difficult for us to have a very good AI system. And then we also have data protection, review our Data Protection Act, and we also have introduced Cyber Security Acts. So that is a lesson learned from Malaysia. Thank you, my dear. Hand over to you.
Thank you so much. No time left, but still one question for the participants. We would like to hear from you, and my colleague is sharing the Mentimeter link in the chat and on the screen with the QR code. We would like to hear from our participants. What roles can regional networks, such as STEPAN, play in supporting governance of emerging technologies, such as AI in countries? Please share your inputs with us by scanning the code. This will be very informative for our future planning. And we heard a lot about, basics of research systems, data sharing, transparency, inclusivity of local research. I was myself very surprised how much this is in line with UNESCO recommendation on open science, which was actually developed and adopted at the same time with the ethics of AI recommendation. And to implement this recommendation in the region, we are also, as I mentioned at the beginning, we are conducting a series of awareness raising webinar. The last session, if you haven't participated, was on infrastructures related to open science, which are very much shared with AI, internet connectivity, research and education networks, specifically data infrastructures. And the next session will be on open data. So I ask your permission to share the invitation via email in the next days with you. I hope this will be also very informative for you. I would like to close by again thanking very much our distinguished speakers. It was super informative for us, and I'm sure for everyone else. We hope to continue from here. We hope this has created some linkages for collaboration between the countries and between the experts. I also would like to thank my dear colleagues, Fitri and Kasumi, who have been supporting this session in the background. And meanwhile, your very valuable inputs are coming in. Thank you for that. I would like to close the session here and hope to see you in the next knowledge sharing sessions. Thanks, everyone.